Welcome to Barbells, Business and Boobs, where we discuss navigating everyday life as lifters, business owners, and being a woman in a male-dominated industry. Hi, Meg and Christy. Happy Monday morning.
Yes.
So, Meg, today I've been stalking you, so I know what to talk about. Happy first day of prep.
Thanks. I'm already like seeing some vascularity pop out. It's not a big deal.
Oh, just from starting, right?
Yeah, just from meal one.
So you are what, 27 weeks from Atlanta?
Yeah, 27 weeks out. So pre-prep, whatever you want to call it, we're just pretty much like tightening up all the bullshit, like the little things I may not be tracking. Like I weighed out my spinach this morning, so it's getting pretty real. Like not tracking like some sauces, some condiments and things. So we're just pulling things out. But even with that, I'll probably end up dropping a good bit this week. And then of course off-plan meals. We had our last one last night. We have like 2 more date nights planned for like Will's birthday and then Valentine's Day. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. It's game time.
What did you have last night?
I'm kind of upset. We got the carrot cake at Walmart, so I cheated on Publix carrot cake. But we got like one of these small ones, and we both had half. We had sushi, and that was pretty much it. It was good. It was real good.
Awesome. I have a little story about the first time I hung out with Meg and Will. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to like.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Gary and I went over to their house, and I was like, I think it was 4th of July, and I was like, I don't want to show up empty-handed. Like, I feel like that's kind of rude, but I'm like, Meg's definitely in prep right now. I think the Olympia was coming up. I mean, this is summer, so you were prepping, and so I was like, okay, what's kind of something that's safe? And I thought Liquid Death, waters, and I did think about getting one of the flavor-free ones, and I brought them there, and this is when I realized like what other level bodybuilders have to be on is Meg didn't decline the drink because it had 2 grams of carbs. And I was like, okay, that's such a different like world than I'm used to. But I was like shit, like she takes it seriously. So now I know like when you like, I believe you when you're like, I weighed my spinach this morning.
Yeah, like once I like flip that prep switch on, like I'll pick out like a gram of blueberries.
Yeah.
I'll like not track, like I won't have energy drinks now because I'm not sacrificing 2 grams of carbs. And like people can think about that how they want. I know we're gonna get into like some of my past with like disordered eating and things, but definitely I can see that kind of going in that path too. But yeah, for where I'm going, like the Olympia, like it just requires that precision. I call it precision over like obsession and like something disordered. Because like in the off season, and we can talk about this more, but I'm more flexible. Like I'm chill. Like, if I want to eat a cookie, if I want to macro swap something, I'm gonna have it, and I think that's how it should be. But
I love that you said that and you're honest about it, because some people, when I was first getting into bodybuilding, like just learning about it, I remember someone told me that too. And he's someone I look up to, Justin Randall.
Okay.
He's an IFBB pro. And I was starting to get, because I have a tendency to be very OCD. And I remember I was in medical sales at the time. So I'd bring all my dogs, have all my meals. And I didn't have a show lined up or anything. It was like off season. It was like my first time, like really trying to gain weight and gain muscle. And I remember feeling super guilty because I came in to eat a supplement store and I was like, I'm sorry, I have rice cakes today. My rice wasn't made on time. It's like 5 grams of carbs different. And he was like, it's okay. So I'm glad you said that. But it's funny because you said that, because I forget that it's like that sometimes in the beginning and then off season. But yeah.
And I have a hard time believing when athletes at like a high clip are like, oh, I never take like an off-plan meal. I always follow everything to a T. And I'm like, well, you must hate your life, to be honest. Like,
I dated someone like that once.
It ain't the way to go.
Christy, remember?
I do.
If you don't enjoy the process and like it causes you that much like stress and mental like ugh, to be that anal about it. I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. But obviously, like I said, like once prep switches on, it's on. But I know now how to kind of pull off the brakes and just enjoy life a little bit.
That's so important. I also have to say, so you're our first. We've had John Jewett, I believe. Yeah, he's the only. No, we've had two professional male bodybuilders. You're actually the first female. So, yay. And let me tell you guys a background story. So, Christy and Meg actually met, like they just shared, which I'm very jealous because Meg was one of my first online people. And I was texting Christy one day, Meg, and I'm like, I've known Meg on the internet since like 2017, I
Yeah.
think. And it's so funny because I literally was like, and this is appropriate because of our podcast name. I was like, Meg has seen my boobs. I was like, I texted her right after I got,
yeah.
I was like, I texted her because we were talking about like over the muscle, under the muscle, all that stuff. And I was like, it's so weird because we've tried to meet. There's been so many times where you've been at this convention and I've been there
No.
and we haven't met, but I think originally it was Charity Witt that sent me your profile, and she was like, "This girl reminds me of you. She kind of writes like you. She's very intense." And then I started reading, some of your stuff at the time you were in figure. I believe when I first followed you, you were in, yeah, were about to turn pro.
Yeah.
You had that tunnel vision. You were still a trainer, and I just really related to some of your posts. I like how you lifted, and you were the first person I kind of like looked up to in bodybuilding because you were younger, girly, and it was fun to see. So, anyways, this year we better meet. I'm making it happen.
I know it really needs to. I know I have like a busy kind of, not even busy. I say busy, but it's like it's just prep. I can travel in prep. But yeah, we definitely need to make it happen. It's been years
Yes.
coming. So
And I've referred, thank you always to like Christy and I, something we actually started this podcast, Meg, because we would call each other. And, I've seen Christy move cross country several times. She's been there for me. And we would always call each other because sometimes we'd go through like the depression where we were just online coaching. And I'm like, hey, I haven't seen anyone in person for a few days. I'm going crazy. And then we would get annoyed with social media. And we were like, these issues need to be talked about.
yeah.
So thank you for everything that you do. I always am sending your posts, sharing. It means a lot, especially because I've kind of gone in a different direction the past 2 years. So I feel like certain things I don't get to talk about as much, but I still care about them. And you both do a great job at that. So thank you for everything. So yeah, if you're listening to the podcast, you better go follow Meg right now. Start stalking her page. Look at her journey.
Please do.
Okay. So I want to talk. Okay. Chrissy, have you ever seen Meg's ballet pictures?
No, I have not.
That's so surprising to some people that I did that.
Meg, if you have anything pulled up like quickly that you can access, you have to show Christy for the wow factor because you were how much did you weigh?
I was probably like 110 pounds at best.
So Meg ate little Meg.
Yeah, I did.
Definitely. That's crazy because sometimes I think about like when I broke the 100-pound barrier and I think I was like 10,
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I'll have to send you a picture. I totally didn't know that you didn't know that. But not a lot of people do because, I mean, in the beginning, when I first got on social media, like I would share a lot about my ballet to weightlifting journey and then like eating disorder to bodybuilding journey. And then now it's like I just talk about my bodybuilding. I don't know. I don't like want to identify as she was the girl with the eating disorder who did ballet. Like I just want to be known as like, oh, I'm Meg. But I know a lot of people resonate with it. So I do like to share my story still. I'm not ashamed of it. It built me physically and mentally. So, but yeah, I definitely ate myself.
I can definitely relate to that too, because like when we all have these journeys and our stories of how we got here. And I kind of feel the same way where it's like you forget like that you used to share all those things and see people might come up to you and go, oh my God, that really meant a lot to me. You're like, wow, like I feel like that, because you talk about it all the time, it almost like keeps you in that identity almost.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So, and when you're posting on social media, you're constantly, putting out there. So it's not like that you define yourself as that, but like other people can put that label on you. So I can relate to that too, because I've kind of stopped talking about my journey and my troubles, even though they're more relatable if people care. But just because it's like, I just don't want to keep on like validating that like was a thing, if
Yeah,
that
like
makes sense.
yeah, reliving it and all of
Right,
that. Like it's not who you are,
right.
it built you into who you are today, but you don't have to keep bringing it up kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do like talking about it because it is kind of like a big shock to people too, seeing how like muscular I am now, and then you like see the
Hmm.
ballet picture, like damn, it's like what?
So
Anyway.
was ballet, was that your first love? How did you get into it?
Oh yeah, dude. I so my parents did the whole like do what you want kind of thing. Like I did ballet from 3 years old, and I stopped when I was 18 when I had to come home from school, and I'll get into that. But they also tried to get me into sports. Soccer I sucked at, tennis I sucked at. They tried to get me into piano playing, that was shit. But like, I tried all the things and I just always kept going back to ballet. That was my true passion. And it just felt me. Like I tried different categories. Like I always did classical ballet, but I tried jazz, I tried hip hop, god awful at hip hop, like tap, like none of that felt like Meg. Like, so it was just ballet. And I even went to, University of North Carolina, School of the Arts. I majored in classical ballet my first year of undergrad. And then that's kind of when I think moving away from home, having all that control to myself, that's when my eating disorder really kind of reared its head again. So that's why I had to make the decision to transfer home and just kind of step away from ballet. Because I had an eating disorder from the age of 14, and I didn't truly recover probably until my late 20s. Like I'm 29 now. It was the reason I stepped away also from competing back in 2020 and had that big break between my next showing in 2025 last year, because like my relationship with food, body and mind, it was just not solid. And I could tell like a lot of my eating disorder triggers and things were kind of popping back up, and I'm like, this isn't it. Like I can't, relapse and go back that way. And I did, but um, I'm definitely in a much better place now. Going through this last prep and into the off season, I struggled a little bit with that transition, which I know you wanted to talk about. But overall, I'm definitely in a better position now. Um, but with ballet, like I said, it just felt like myself. And I think the reason I feel like myself now in a more, totally opposite, ballet to bodybuilding. But they are two of my biggest passions. And I think it all comes down to they both require so much self discipline. And they're all very solo kind of driven. I know like we can't say it's a solo sport. Like I have my coach, I have my husband and everybody who supports me and yada yada. But at the end of the day, it's up to me if I'm gonna wake my ass up, do my fasted cardio, train hard and all this stuff. Same with ballet. Like it was pretty much all on you. Like it was you showing up and putting in the reps for practice and everything. So I think it's that self discipline that I just latched onto really.
So that was about 14 when
Mhm.
you now were you, cuz I remember I think in like middle school we started talking about like eating disorders and stuff. How did you first, cuz I'm not going to lie. So and I actually don't ever really talk about this. I in 6th grade remember learning about anorexia, bulimia, overeating and all that and was actually almost like intrigued by it. That's, I mean, it was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing because I remember I started like tracking all my food, writing it down, and then it was a bad thing because I remember like one time I had a fried meal, which I never do, and I purposely
Mhm.
made myself puke, and then I told my family like, oh, the fried food just didn't agree with me, but it was because I learned about it that I was like, oh, that's kind of like, I know it sounds so bad saying this 20 year, almost 20 years later, but I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I can eat what I want and then puke it up. It was more just, yeah, that's terrible to admit, but how did you first like, did you read about it or was it just something you were automatically doing because of the ballet atmosphere?
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting. I went to, I guess this probably sounds totally off the beaten path of what you just asked, but I went to Catholic school growing up. throughout my freshman year, I went to a Catholic high school for that year. And then I transitioned to public school. And when I made that transition to public school, I felt very out of place. Um, I knew some people, of course. I had my sister there, my best friend there, but at the time, it's like my best friend and I kind of like detached. You drift apart from some people, so I felt very kind of alone in that aspect. But also with ballet, it just kept me so busy. So I was always kind of to myself in a way. And with ballet, I took it very, very seriously. Like every summer, I would go away for like 6 to 8 weeks for like summer intensive camps, and there it was in Philly. It was called The Rock. A lot of my instructors were like those old school Russian instructors. And I just always noticed that they gravitated towards the very thin ballerinas. And like I was thin too. It's not like I was ever overweight or anything, but it was just, in my opinion, like I wasn't the ideal ballet frame, like that they were constantly like giving these roles out to or putting in the solos and things. Um, and that's why I attached it. It was like, oh, it must be I'm too big. I never really thought about, oh, it's because maybe they're better than me, logically thinking. But in my opinion, it was because of my body type. Because obviously, I was taller. I was wider framed. That's why I look like a linebacker now. Like like I was never this petite little girl. And with that day and age, like what was it called? Not Pinterest, but like, well, I say
Tumblr.
Tumblr.
Yes,
Dude,
Oh
that is
Tumblr.
where a lot of that
Like,
started.
yeah, people are talking about skinny talk. I don't know what
Hmm.
skinny TikTok is. I know Tumblr,
Hmm.
and Tumblr ruined my high school years.
Mm.
Like, it was just all about, how to work out and work off, like, if you eat this much, and like, here's this skinny ab, like,
Mm.
tutorial. And I remember, like, I would wake up in the morning and, like, do crunches and all this stuff in my room for like an hour and a half before I left for school. And it's like I had ballet practice every single night. I would make sure that I was very restrictive on my food intake. So at the time, I told my parents, I'm like, I'm vegan. I'm vegan now. And I was vegan for 5.5 years. And not a lot of people know that either. And it's like I was even raw vegan. I have an Instagram actually. I think it's still active. It's called The Rawsome Vegan. And it's just pictures of like my mono meals, I called them, which was literally just apples. And I'm like, I just ate apples for a meal. But I at the time told my parents it was like, oh, PETA and like I love animals and like yay, veganism. But it was really just a way to restrict further without getting attention drawn to me, kind of thing. Um, and my parents definitely noticed that I was losing weight and all this. And I would say, shoot, like 15 years old, it was like I walked into my parents' office one day and I noticed my ballet teacher was there. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? It was like a total like intervention moment. And from there, I went to, outpatient therapy at the Renfrew Center. I had a psychiatrist. I went to therapy for years. And, I thought I was better. I gained the healthy weight back, but, I was not recovered. That's for sure. And when I went away for college to North Carolina, the art school, that's when it kind of came back because now I was away from my parents. They didn't see me every week. So I did fall back into a lot of bad habits there. Um, and I noticed it was when I would show up for ballet and like I would literally cry during practices and dance classes because I just got so frustrated and like, you just feel like emotionally exhausted, even though it was your passion and your love, you just, you don't feel like yourself in it anymore. Um, and I knew like I was doing it to myself. So I had to come home. And there was this moment, when, shoot, I was home and I passed out. I know I passed out at dance class and I got taken in the ambulance to the ER. And I knew I needed a change because I woke up from, I don't know what happened. Like I just passed out. And I woke up to my dad literally crying at like the bedside table. And he was like, I thought I lost like my baby girl. And that just kills me. And it still kills me to this day that I did that to my parents, you know? Um, but it took a while, but I knew I needed a change. So that's why I transferred home. And I started going to the gym because I thought that would be the best thing to do. I ate my first piece of chicken and like started to change my ways. Um, and I was definitely still in the beginning phases, still masking my eating disorder by moving from ballet to bodybuilding, still a restrictive extreme sport, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in my parents' opinion, like, oh, I was eating more often. I was training now. I wasn't doing just cardio, and like it looked healthier, you know, on the outside. um, but both sports, ballet and bodybuilding, they do kind of normalize perfectionism. Um, they I mean, we're constantly surveying ourselves, and we're constantly trying to be perfect and to be better. So I think that's kind of the negative side of it, especially if you are recovering from an eating disorder. Like I know a lot of girls and guys too. They get out of bodybuilding preps and they're like, "Oh, bodybuilding did this to me," and there's a lot of hate around that. But I really do think that bodybuilding does uncover your
Mhm.
past like relationships with food and just your past like relationships with this your body and your mind. um it's not that bodybuilding gave you an eating disorder, it's just how you kind of coped with it, during that. um Sorry, I went on a tangent there, but I don't know if I answered your question. I
No,
don't
you
know.
did. It was a good tangent too. You hit on a
Okay.
Mhm.
lot. So how old were you at that time when you passed out? You said
Mhm.
that's what kind of like changed you, and then you transferred home. How old were you?
So I was 16, I believe, when I had that passed out episode, and that's like when I started to kind of get a little healthier. I was still dancing, and that's why my parents were like okay with me going away to college to dance because
Mm.
it did
Okay.
appear that I was, doing better. But when I did transfer away from home, then it kind of came back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why when I transferred back home from North Carolina, I had to make that decision for myself. And
Mm.
that's when I was like, okay, I can't do ballet anymore. I need to, change my ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I got into bodybuilding.
So I
Yeah.
know I'm going to jump timelines a little bit, and Chrissy, feel free to interrupt. But when was it? Because obviously, like you were said, bodybuilding, ballet, both perfection, it
Yeah.
triggered your eating disorder. And an eating disorder, in my opinion, is something just like any disease or health issue. It's going to rear its ugly head sometimes, no matter how healed you think you might be. When and do you feel that you conquered it, or are there tools that you still utilize when it maybe wants to come back?
Yeah. So, like I said back in 2020, when I did my first pro debut, I call this last one in 2025, my pro debut 2.0. But my first pro debut was, COVID era. I was in chiropractic school getting my doctorate. There was a lot of stress, a lot of world events like causing a lot of stress there. And it was honestly like I know you mentioned earlier, just like being an online coach and not seeing people. Whenever we went to virtual learning and out of the classroom, that really messed with my mental health. Um, but that is what actually brought back my eating disorder was during that prep, because I just felt so stressed and overwhelmed. And going back to my eating disorder, which was it was a complex eating disorder because I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. But something I struggled with deeper was bulimia. And that's what I struggled with during that prep was bulimia because, you know, like you said, like, oh, I can eat this and then, it doesn't in fact impact me. And that's kind of how I would cope with how I was feeling. with the stressors and everything. And then, post show, it was all that pressure, and that's when I definitely went off the deep end, and I kind of went to like just binge eating, and that's when I knew, oh well, shit, I need to step away from bodybuilding right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept stepping away from all these things that I was passionate about that I think caused my eating disorder. But at the end of the day, I finally came to the conclusion, oh shit, it's me. It's like literally mentally
Mm-hmm.
me that is the issue. It's not these sports, it's not prep, it's not competing. It was that constant battle in my head that I needed to first overcome. Um, so it was kind of, I mean, at the time I was working with Jason Theobald, and I told him exactly what was happening. I was very upfront and honest, like, I need to step away from this because I'm, relapsing, and I can't do that. Like, I need to get out of this. So I did kind of self coach for about 4 years before I hired Cameron Cheek. And Cameron was very aware of my eating disorder history, and that's why he was a little like iffy when he was taking me on board too. He wanted to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I was in a good headspace. But it did take me a lot of mental work internally too to cope with that. And I had to step away from tracking my macros. And I think a lot of people, especially in today's day and age, when like social media is just like all about fitness and tracking, and you can't have balance when you're in bodybuilding and all this stuff. And I think it is kind of turning people to food focused, because that intuitive eating actually is what helped me out the most. I felt more in control of myself around food. But I also do believe that you do need to have some sort of tracking history and just education around nutrition before you jump into intuitive eating, because it is very common for people to undereat and all of that. But that was one way that really helped me. And I know you can't really do that immediately post show. You can't be like, oh, I'm going to intuitively eat. Like, you could easily pack on some probably not quality weight. But that did help me like pull off some of that pressure on myself to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
When,
yeah.
well, going back to kind of, because I was sitting here kind of thinking like, okay, like obviously like you saying the disorder's coming from you. It's not like bodybuilding created. It's not like ballet created. And I was even kind of thinking social media with all, if that exasperated, but of course, you're kind of taking the accountability. It's coming from you and you're ultimately in control. But I was kind of curious, since you do have a following and now you're known as this great bodybuilder, if you ever have to take a step back from that, or if ever had to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going into my first pro debut in 2020, I felt like I had a lot of pressure because up until that point, I never really lost a show.
Mm.
My first go at nationals, I got fifth, which I wouldn't consider that a bad placing at all at your first go at nationals. And then the second year at nationals, I won my pro card. And then I was going into that pro debut, and even my coach at the time was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna get top five." Everybody was in
Oh.
my ear saying, "Oh, you're gonna win, you're
Mm.
gonna win, you're gonna place top five, yada
Right.
yada." I ended up in dead last, and that
Mm.
mentally crushed me. I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I went from first place in overalls to dead last, and like now I'm like, okay, I get it, because my feedback was like, "Bitch, you're too big." Like, go to women's physique, and at the time I thought I was figure. I was like, no, I'm figure, because I looked at other girls and I still didn't have like huge delts, and like I was just picking out like these particular body parts that I didn't have yet, but it was my stature that they were saying. Like,
Mm.
you're literally, your clavicles are too wide. Like, you are not meant for
Mm.
figure. Now I get it. But at the time, like I thought it was like, not correct and yada yada, and that's why I hated bodybuilding. Went through that bullshit phase. But yeah, I mean, definitely social media does exacerbate it. And I was a little worried too going into this past season, going back into bodybuilding, because I was getting like a lot of hype. Um, getting back into it and like progressing as quickly as I did with, the rapid return of my upper body and all this, and like, you know, placing second at my first women's physique show, and then I got my Olympia qualification, then I went to the Olympia. And in the back of my mind I was like, I really hope this doesn't mentally fuck me up. And like I no longer enjoy it, because I
Mm-hmm.
do feel so at home and at peace in this division. And I was really worried that social media and just other people's opinions would really get to me. But I think I'm just so grounded in who I am and the woman I am, with the support I have from my husband around what I want to do, just my life in general. I just feel very grounded and like this is Meg, that nobody's other opinions could really impact that. Which it took years. I mean, I'm almost 30, and I knew like I just had to go through the shit, really. Like you sometimes
Mm-hmm.
have to go through the shit to get out to the other side. But yeah, it no longer impacts me. But it did take a while to get here.
That's such a good feeling, and I know Chrissy and I can relate too, because I feel like as a woman,
Hmm.
especially if you're in the spotlight on social media whatsoever, your like mid 20s are absolute hell in that realm, because it might, people look up to you, you inspire people, and on the inside you have no idea what the hell's going on. Because I went through the same thing, like, and it actually feels really good to talk about, because I pushed it in the back of my mind and pretend it didn't existed. But just like you, Meg, in 2020, I was in like a miserable abusive relationship. I did the whole COVID thing where I was like, I was trying to do my first show coming back from like a broken arm and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to stay in prep because the world's going to open. And it was such a form of control. And then things started to get dark. Like I started doing that binge eating stuff, and I didn't tell anyone about it. It was just something that it made me a better coach, because I looked up ways, like I was taking these like online courses, trying to learn more about like disordered eating. And again, it was weird. It felt like I was a different person because I didn't tell anyone about it. I was in therapy at the time too. We didn't really touch on that. And it was something, luckily, that passed. But like you said, I don't feel like I had full control over it until I was happy with myself. And this is kind of hard to admit, but until I had a really good man in my life, I didn't ever feel secure with who I was. And that helped immensely. So it's good to hear you say that also, like, your husband and who you are helped a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for stepping back on stage. And I was going to ask, because I saw the other day, because I know what it's like to be hyped up, and people now are saying like, oh, Meg is too big for women's physique, she should go to bodybuilding. And I think you handled that very classy. But just talk about that a little, because it's all people on the internet are going to talk. They don't, and it's usually these like skinny little fucks that have never worked out in their life
Yeah.
most of the time. But
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Usually I get those comments from guys, not females. And that's okay. Just shows me that their masculine energy is a little bit on the lower side. But that's all right. Um, but yeah, dude, like people don't understand that when you post up your progress photos, one deep in the off season, that a lot of, I mean, not a lot of what's on my frame, it's not all water and fat. Like, I have some good muscle under there, but I'm 5'8". I'm wide. Like I'm not going to be walking around peak off season at 190. I stepped on stage at 185, 187, like shredded. I don't know what people were really expecting, but I wasn't expecting 230. So that shocked me as well. But like I'm still holding a very solid body composition, and I know that a lot of that is water and retention and all of this stuff and inflammation just from heavy training and all that, and it's gonna flush out. But like even like Cam is like, yeah, we'll probably step on stage around like 190, 195, maybe 200. I'm like, whoa, dude, like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be shredded at 200 yet. But definitely like people saying, oh, you need to move up to women's bodybuilding. It's like you're literally comparing just these solo shots of me in my little spare bedroom with my little black backdrop. Like, I'm not standing on stage next to anyone in these shots. So, sure, I look bigger. But every single time I competed last year, they gave me the same feedback: grow your arms, back density. And that's what we've been hammering away at. And we've definitely, done it. We done did it. So I don't think I'm going to get that feedback this year. But likely my feedback will now be to maintain. If I want to stay in women's physique, I'm not really going to have to grow too much more, maybe just little bits here and there. But I was also coming off of, 18 plus months of not training my upper body. So obviously it was going to look a bit drastic, my progress for sure. But I think people just, they don't understand bodybuilding judging, I don't think, or the criteria, unless they're active competitors. Like the spectators and stuff, they just correlate your weight to a
Mm-hmm.
class. And the whole like women's divisions need like a weight class or a weight cutoff. I'm like, no, no, they don't. Like, because I'm pretty sure they're still awarding the standard criteria, you know? Like, if I am too big, they will tell me, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
let other people's like comments or opinions of my off-season peak phase like to dictate that. I love women's bodybuilding, but personally, I feel better in women's physique. The posing just feels more me. But I also think that women's bodybuilding is super feminine as well. Um, but that's something that was hard for me to kind of accept too, getting back into a more muscular division, which I
Mm-hmm.
know, um, I think you had wanted to talk about like the whole transition from wellness to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's a whole bunch of us that when we have if we have kids or something one day or like in 10 years we're gonna joke about like, hey, do you remember in 2023 when I stopped training upper body? Because girl, I did the same thing too. It was just a weird phase. And I did it for almost like like 2 years. And looking back at pictures, it's so funny. And what did it for me, Meg, was the guy who I'm getting married to now. We had only been hanging out for like a month, and we were at the Olympia the year it was in Florida, so I think 2023 maybe.
Hmm.
And I'd been working all day, and I was like, I have to go. I'm gonna go hit a quick lift just to get out of the noise. And he looked at me and he was like, "Your triceps are looking really flat." And I was like, "I don't train upper body." And he was like, "Oh well." He's like, looking back at your other pictures, like your arms were awesome. And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "You have no idea how quickly I can grow." I was like, it just turned on like a competitive thing in me because I don't know why. Not that I should care what I look like for my man. It was more just like, oh, you did not say my triceps look flat. And then I kind of got right back into it. And I almost forgot how much I loved, like, I'm a strength athlete. That was my background. I forgot how much pride I took in like being able to throw up heavier weight. And it was fun. I missed it. So yeah, it was just a weird phase we all went through. But yeah, I want to hear from you kind of because I know you were, you know, convinced you were going to do wellness. Talk to us about that because I know that
Yeah.
you're an athlete. So once you're in that mindset, you're like, I'm going to do it. So how did you kind of realize it wasn't for you? Was it sad to switch over or was it exciting?
Yeah, so there's a lot of mixed emotions there. But with wellness, I originally, when I took the hiatus, like I said, 2020, screw bodybuilding, I hate it. I tried to run, I tried to do Pilates, I tried
Oh my
all of it.
gosh.
I was like, yeah, this is how you get fit. Like you do Pilates and you just do 5Ks. That was not for me. So when I went back to bodybuilding, I was like, okay, how can I still remain in those societal like feminine
Mm.
standards? And that was wellness. It was growing in popularity. It had what every girl really wants, well, most women, small waist, petite upper body, big old booty. And that's what I wanted. And that is what was socially accepted as feminine. Moving into women's physique, then it meant that I had to fully embrace, you know, my size, my density, my strength. And that did, like you said, like it kind of came quickly to you. I was surprised when I got into bodybuilding how quickly I was able to put on muscle. Because I was so small for so long. And I think it was also, getting back to eating meat,
Mm,
that helped.
definitely.
But yeah, it that's not really the socially acceptable thing for females to be like dense and take up space physically and mentally and like being able to throw up some weight. But there was that real identity shift when I did go back to training my upper body, where I was like, okay, I'm getting back to my roots here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does require a little bit more, um, I guess, more confidence in yourself because you are going against that social norm. Um, but it does, it feels more like me, because that's what got me into bodybuilding was training. I train hard. Like I don't like just tossing around 20-pound dumbbells and stuff like that. Like I like to be pretty close to like Will's strength. Like if I can't lift one plate under him, I'm weak and puny. Like I need to always be like right here, like on his strength, and he's stupid strong. um but that's just me, and that's like the
Mm-hmm.
competitive nature of me too. uh but one thing that was hard for me is like, you know, whenever we go out on date nights and stuff, like I can't wear the same clothes I used to when I
Mm-hmm.
didn't train my upper body. Like I could wear like, I mean, I'm sure I could, but it doesn't look as appealing on my body, like the small shirts and like the, you know, the skimpier things. Like I just can't dress like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Things will cut into my lats and like all you can see is lats from the back. Like it's not as cute. I'll say
Do
that.
you do you have the permanent, like if you move your sports bra, do you have like the permanent like indent?
I I switched out of the sports bra I wore for
Oh,
cardio this morning because it's like red.
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
I
girl,
was like,
Yeah.
you're bigger than me, and I can't even imagine because I've just resorted to I wear nipple like right now I have on nipple covers because unless I am training, I do not wear a bra. Because between the back, the traps, and the boobs, it hurts
Yes.
so bad. It hurts so bad.
it
We need
does.
to we need to make bras that like fit like women with boobs and traps and lats.
Oh,
But like I can totally relate to with like the constant pull of like I want to be smaller and like wear these like things and then like because I've gone through phases like that too, or phases where I've had to lift lighter and I'm like, damn, this is boring. I just like to lift heavier. Like I want to throw a weight above my head. So it is a constant pull of like when I'm in the gym or day to day life, I feel really good, feel like me, feel like to feel strong. And
hmm
then I think I went through this actually when I was getting ready to get married, being a little bit self conscious of like, do I look like too masculine in a wedding dress? Like I feel like I'm wearing like a costume now. Eventually, I got I was like, this is me. And, embraced it more. And I did feel, beautiful on that day and stuff like that. But it's such a constant pull where it's like, you feel really good. You do feel beautiful, sexy, whatever. But if you're put in a position where like you have to wear like a certain outfit or something like that, where it doesn't look good on you, you're like, damn. So it's kind of a constant pull of both ways.
Yeah. And I mean, now being that this is like my first, well, I mean, in figure, like I had a good amount of muscle on me, but I
Hmm.
definitely have more muscle now than I did back then because in figure, like I was stepping on stage at like 160 shredded. So I have a good like 20 pounds probably on me.
Hmm.
So it is a totally new physique. And now having upper body muscle and then fat and water on top of that muscle, like I just have like I have so many clothes down in my little spare closet. I just don't want to go through them. I don't want to put them on because I know it's going to make me feel like shit and be like, this doesn't fit, toss it. And it's like there's certain things like I always tell my athletes, like in prep, I know you're feeling yourself, but don't buy a whole
Hmm.
bunch of stuff because it's not gonna fit you. It's not. Like in the off season and trying to squeeze back into prep clothes or what you looked good in prep, it's gonna make you feel like crap about your off season body, and it's not gonna make you
Mm-hmm.
feel confident in it. So I shift the way that I dress now, and also I'm just more lazy now. I think I dress more like Adam Sandler than like trying to like get all cute and stuff.
It's
Um,
cozy season here.
but I do miss, you know, being able to wear what everybody else on Instagram wears, and but that's kind of part of the sacrifice, if you
Right.
will, if you do want to be a more muscular female. You do have to develop that deep confidence that isn't just coming from your external
Hmm.
appearance. It has to come really from deep within. Because sure, I could still wear like the skimpier stuff and all that, but will I feel like beautiful in it? Probably not. Uh,
Hmm.
so you just have to do what's best for you, really, when it comes to that.
I know. It kind of drives me crazy as someone. So I talk about this with Christy a lot. I was naturally muscular when I was younger. You
Mhm.
know, my track coach made that very aware to have me stand up and be like, "Yeah, Brittany's just not built for like longer distance, blah blah blah." And now it's funny because it's hard. Like I'm trying to get bigger, and something shifted. Like when I was like 26, I could like just eat in a little bit of a surplus and gain muscle. You know, I didn't switch over to like when I was in strongman, I wasn't necessarily trying to gain muscle. I was just trying to get strength, which is
Yeah.
very different, looks very different in the training. And now being in my mid 30s, I'm like, damn, this, I'm trying to get bigger and it is so hard. But something I'm very confident with who I am, but that's something that still bothers me a little bit is the comments when, and I'm in Vegas. There are some of, you know, the best female bodybuilders in the world here. So I'm used to seeing certain physiques and it's normal to me. But then when I step outside, I've been hosting a lot of events lately. And I think the comment that gets to me the most is like when people meet me, they're like, oh, you're so nice. You know, I thought you were like, don't hurt me. Or, and I hate stuff like that because why from the normies, do they associate female muscle with being like this dominant mean person? Like I just never, I don't understand that. And that's probably the only thing that bothers me a little bit still, I'm not gonna lie. And I know in your area where you guys live, that's probably even more prominent because there's so many, I don't want to associate religion with anything, but I feel like those people can be a little bit more judgmental when you do something outside the norm.
I can see that for sure. Because I did just move here from Florida. Florida was definitely more of a hub for fitness and for bodybuilding for sure. So moving up here to South Carolina, it was definitely a little bit of a shock, but also it was so much of a shock with how supportive people actually are.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Yay.
like in the gym, like I went into this new gym like already in prep when we moved. And right from the get-go, like people are just like, holy shit, like yeah, you're jacked, but like this is cool as shit. Like and you're strong and like I get more comments and positive feedback from people like here than I ever did really in Florida. Of course, I had my friends in Florida who would always hype me up and stuff, but like it wasn't as common. People actually talk
Hmm.
and they're friendly here. I don't know if it's just the South. I don't know.
Okay,
It's
good.
so yeah. So now Megan and I live in the same city, and I remember texting Brittany and being like, "Did Megan like, move to Greenville, South Carolina?" It's like that's where we live. Like, there's no like compare because I moved here from California where it was
Mhm.
like all the bodybuilding gyms. There's so many strongman gyms, and then here, I mean, luckily by the time you moved here, we have a couple better bodybuilding gyms, one of them which you go to, but it's the fitness community is not as like robust, or especially with bodybuilding or maybe strongman, as the where we both come from.
Mhm.
But it is interesting you say that because I think at first I was really off put by how nice people were here. I thought it was like really fake, which sometimes it can be,
Yeah.
but in the gyms and stuff like you said, I can really see that too, where people are like really supportive and excited because it's like you're like, wow, like we have this like these really good bodybuilders who live here, and that's like really cool. Like, so I'm
Yeah.
really glad you like it because I was kind of nervous. I was like, you should
Oh shit.
try, you
I
could
was
try out
super
this gym, but like I'm so scared for you because I'm hope that you're like not like turned off by like the type of gyms we have here. But I'm glad you found like a good community.
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely up and coming for sure for bodybuilding, and I love that. Obviously, being in a marriage, you have to make some compromises and stuff, and Will loves the mountains and the seasons and bullshit, so we're here, and I do love it here. It's definitely a slower pace than like Tampa. I do miss Tampa. I miss my friends down there for sure. But getting back to what you said though about how people view like just having muscle in your frame as being more intense in that way, I think it just comes down to muscle is inherently a masculine trait. I'm not saying that like females with muscle are like masculine, but that is like your masculine energy is to be stronger and to have that power and be able to go against like societal norms and stuff and be cool with it. But yeah, I mean, I wrote on my story the other day, like anytime like a girl posts up like a cute selfie of herself in her story, I always hit like the little heart like because like at the end of the day, I'm still a girl's girl, and like I love hyping up other females, and I'm friendly. I do have like a really bad resting bitch face, especially when I train. So I know a lot of people are shocked like how nice and friendly I am, especially if like they meet me in prep. But at the end of the day, it's people just they judge based off of the look. You know, it's just how people are. Um, but I do want to show up more this prep and like show more face on like Instagram. I don't think I'll ever get like to the daily vlogging, like full day of eating kind of like YouTube thing, but I do want to get on my stories more, talk more, especially being in women's physique and the more muscular divisions that do seem to be kind of like dying out. I think if we just bring more personality to it and not make it so taboo and so much about the muscle, more
Hmm.
females will feel better and more inclined to maybe step into these divisions and not feel as scared of them, you know?
Yes, I agree. And I love that you take that stance because I do feel like it's, if you're in the sport, it's your responsibility,
Uh-huh.
to make it.
Mhm.
And I've always done underdog sports. So I get it. And I do have faith that it's going to turn around. It's kind of like just like everything, there's peaks and valleys and things come in trends. Like right now, I'm so out of the loop. I didn't even know like Pilates and thin stuff was in until Christy told me the other day. Like I don't consume. I try to consume social media like to stay informed
Yeah.
with like my sport and my friends, but I'm so bad at like I feel like the trending stuff is on TikTok and I just don't get that TikTok world. Like
I don't.
I'm like I'm kind of old in that sense, I'm like I'm past that. So and social media has changed. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I felt like and one thing I really miss, and I was very happy to hear you say that on your next prep, you might do more like talking to the camera because I used to talk to the camera all the time, and I feel like all of us did. It was like a way to get to know people and hear stuff, and now it's more just kind of like what's trending, quick hits. And I hope that social media kind of goes back. I was actually talking about it. I trained with a girl on Mondays.
Mhm.
She actually lived in Tampa very briefly. Blanca, Cuban Muscle Barbie. Do you know
Oh,
her?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
we train every Monday at 3. She just moved here about a
yeah.
year ago, and we were saying the same thing. I was like, "Oh, do you know so and so who owns this gym?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "He was one of the first people I followed. He owned this gym, and I loved how he used social media like a diary. Like I feel like I could get inside his head during training. And now I can only get that. Like I just finished the Dorian Yates Huberman podcast episode, and it was so
Oh,
refreshing. I'm like, cool. He talked about his mental demons, and that's the shit I like. So please go
mm,
back to that. Like maybe we can all do it."
yeah. Yeah, it just, I think when it comes to bodybuilding and just social media and women in the sport, because it is still a more male dominant sport, it's bodybuilding. Like it started with males, females just kind of slowly started entering. Um, but I think the major issue is just like blurred like boundaries when it comes to because like going back to like mental health and like bodybuilding and social media definitely influencing that. I think showing up as more of ourselves will make people feel just better about it. But definitely like having to fit within what is going to give you likes and shares, that is so exhausting to me. Like I'd rather just show up as myself. Like close friends Meg is a little bit different than what I post up on my normal story. But I think if I show more of just like my personality and my like goofiness, I think more people will just gravitate towards me. So I'm
Hmm.
gonna hold myself to it this prep. Hopefully I don't get too lazy with it, but we'll see.
Hey, it
Yeah,
comes and goes in waves.
it's a hard habit to get into because like now I'm out of it and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. But then like it's weird because it's easier when you're like doing it. But I
Yeah.
think you're right too because there's sports, like bodybuilding and strongman. I'm just because that's sport I'm in. I see kind of parallels where it's like the people who do it are so interesting and the journey is just so amazing. And we're
Mhm.
missing out a lot of that where it's
Yeah.
like, we see the cool result, but it's like the personalities and even the rivalries and like the drama and the journey and the mental and the things you go through during prep and just your personality in general. It's like
Yeah.
that's going to make me a fan, of the sport in general. I think, I feel like um, there's lots of opportunity there in the sport of bodybuilding to do that.
Yeah.
And I've always been drawn to like solo sports like that. I tried a team sport in college. I just did it for the money. It's like the scholarship. And I hated it because I'd be like, if we lost, I'm like, how the hell do I know that these 8 other chicks in the
Right.
boat were giving 130%? And I just hated it. It was a blessing though, because that is where I fell so in love with strength training. Like I liked lifting before, but something about like being able to feel a weight on my back and like have that moment where I'm like, I could die. That was where I got like addicted to lifting. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I want to go back. Oh, not go back, but you're transitioning from wellness to now physique.
Mhm.
And then you're excited about it. You're training hard. Then you get a back injury with which Christy and I are all too familiar with. In strongman, that is basically the inevitable. Like I joke, I'm like, okay, if you're L3 and L4 aren't herniated, you clearly aren't trying hard enough in your
Yeah.
deadlift. Like it's going to happen on a pull. So, talk to us about that. Had you ever had a severe injury prior to that?
No. And I never broke a bone in my body or
Wow.
anything. Like I
Okay.
was just nothing wrong. Maybe, well, I have like some scars on my knees from like tripping over myself, but like that's about it as far as injuries go. But I noticed when I was training, because I was training just like any other wellness competitor, 4, at the end, it was like 4 days per week, all lower body, heavy shit. Like I was lifting pretty heavy for those all 4 sessions. Like it wasn't like one day was a pump volume, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was hard. Um, and I honestly don't even know how I recovered from that. Like, because now I just have one leg day. Well, one and a half because I have a posterior session day. And I'm just like, how did I train 4 days lower? But I noticed like I had like this weird glute ham tie-in pressure pain on my right side. And I was like, did I just pull my hamstring? Because I had no lower back pain, nothing wrong.
Mm.
And then it got really inflamed. And then I was like, okay, I'll stop like whatever movements were aggravating it. So that was hinge movements and hip thrusts. So I was pretty limited, but I still trained lower 4 days a week. And then it came back. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll just step away again from hip thrust and the hinge. And then it stayed. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I really thought I pulled my hamstring because the whole back of my leg was numb. Like even when I would shave, like I was like, am I shaving? Like, am I touching my leg? Like I couldn't even
Gosh.
feel it. I had like all the classic sciatic symptoms because like I had a chiropractic background. So I was already getting chiropractic treatment. So then we started doing like spinal decompression therapy, and that helped a little bit. But even then, like I was limping throughout my day. I couldn't do certain cardio. I had to stay on the bike. I was still pushing in my training like an idiot because I was like, oh, I can get over this.
Yeah,
Like I'll
we all
just
do
train
that.
through
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
pain. And then I finally was like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on here because it was impacting me in so many different ways. Like Will was pretty much my sole caretaker. Like I couldn't sleep on one side. Like when we slept in bed, like I would have to sleep away from him because I
Hmm.
couldn't cuddle on that side. Like I slept with a pillow between my legs. Like I was limping when I walked around places. It was terrible. So I got an MRI done on both my hamstring and my back because I was still convinced that I tore my hamstring, but my hamstring was fine. And then I got the MRI back of my spine, and yeah, I herniated L4, L5, and L5 S1, and that shit herniation was literally touching my spinal cord. That's why I had so bad like paresthesias and
Numbness.
like
Oh my
no,
gosh.
yeah, like feeling in that leg pretty much. And that's when I kind of had to come to the conclusion that I couldn't do wellness. Like I couldn't train lower body at that amount of volume. And I likely injured it because how weak my upper body was becoming. And I do think a lot of wellness girls I notice, like my friend Laura, she is in wellness. She has sciatic nerve pain. She has disc herniations, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very common in the division because of how imbalanced the physique has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and their lower back gets so weak and their upper body gets so weak, but they're pushing like real heavy weight on the leg press and on hip thrusts, and it's just that
Mm.
inconsistency there with your strength that really does it. But I had to come to the conclusion that I had to train upper body. I had to get back to a balance. And yeah, we started training upper body the first day of prep at January 1st last year, and made the switch to women's physique. And that's when I did like ramp up my therapies too. I was doing spinal decompression twice a week. Um, and like still to this day, I do it. I was doing it once a week during prep, and now I'm once every other week, but it will probably be once every week now that I'm back into prep. But one thing that made the biggest difference, which I was kind of hesitant at first because it is expensive, was stem cells. And my friend Heather Tillery in Georgia, she has done my stem cells. I did 3 trillion exosomes twice now. Um, and the first time I get it done like through IV, so it works kind of systemically, lowering
Mm.
inflammation. But I went to her house. It was all ghetto, you know. We did it in her in her living room, pretty much. But like it worked. Like 2 weeks later, I was pain free. I was training like crazy strong, and it did, you know, come back. Some of the symptoms came back towards the end of my prep, which was bound to happen. Just the CNS overload, the systemic inflammation of prep and being on drugs for that long. It's like I knew it was probably going to come back. So that's why I went ahead and got the stem cells done again. And I was able to come into the Olympia pain free. So that was definitely a turning point for me in my injury.
Amazing. It does she does she take other people? Christy, do you want to do a trip together?
No, it's so funny because I mean, with the height of my back injury of L5S1, I was like Googling all the stem cells. That's how you know that you've reached like a point, like a breaking point when you're like, stem cells, we're going to do it. Luckily, I finally started to get better after years and years of pain. But, I was like, oh, should I just go like Mexico and get some stem cells? Like, what's going to, I guess now maybe we don't have to, but that's amazing that
Yeah.
I mean, everything works, together. But that's amazing. You got like good relief from that too.
Oh yeah, and my mom, she had back surgery before, and when she heard that I had sciatic pain, like talking to me like I didn't go to chiropractic school, she was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to get back surgery," and I'm like, "Nope, like I
No,
will not
avoid
go
at all
under
costs.
because
Uh-huh.
that usually makes it worse.
Yeah.
People don't
Yeah.
realize that. That and the cortisone injections. I was going to do that route because I wasn't believed yet that stem cells would do anything and that it need to be injected into the spine. But that actually weakens like the connective tissue and the tendon itself. That repeated cortisone injection.
Hmm.
So I was like, nope, not going to do that. And then when my friend Heather reached out, I was like, whatever, like I'll try it. And then how quickly it worked, I was like, wow, like that's crazy. But yeah, she does IV at her home in Georgia, of course, or at the clinic, of course. Um, and she also ships like I am, so you can do like DIY stem cells. I
Cool.
don't know the cost difference with that, but yeah, I mean, I think it's worth it, really.
Yeah, I definitely wanna try that because I hurt my back actually when I was super young.
Hmm.
And then it kind of always was like very, very limiting. It still kind of haunts me because I'm like, how good could I have been without that injury? And now
Yeah.
it's more of like same thing when I was doing more like wellness styles training. That's when my knee got super aggravated, and now it's kind of like I can't do the squat patterns as much as I would like. So I get it, but no, I'm gonna look up Heather's info for sure, because I've talked to a lot of people about it. There's my friend Nick Best here said it like changed his life, so I want to look into it for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm
good.
even going to do it just out of precaution, like
Yeah.
here in the next couple months, just for prep sake. But yeah, you mentioned like not being able to train like the same way, and that was something that was really hard for me. Because like with wellness training, like I said, like I trained really heavy and hard. And now I'm pretty limited still with my like lower body training. Like there's certain like I can do the hack squat at our gym because it's the Atlantis one with the little back
Put
thing that
the
comes up,
yeah.
but I can't do regular. I can't do the V or the true squat. I can't do V squats. I can't do Bulgarian split squats. I can't do lunge patterns because anything that just that instability of my pelvis, it flares it. Um, Even lately, like I was doing conventional deadlifts for the last like 2 months of my off season. I was getting strong as
I
shit.
saw.
And
What did you do? 405 times
405
12.
for
Oh
9.
my
Yeah, that
God.
I saw that. I was like, hell yeah.
Dude, I was like, fuck yeah. But then I was like, shit, my lower back started to flare. So I had to make the decision. I had to
Hmm.
pull it down. So now I'm doing RDLs instead. I got 315 for 12. So like it's not like I went I went like lightweight. But I knew that pulling from the ground, like my ego would definitely
Hmm.
get the best of me there. And yeah, I just had to make that kind of executive decision there. But
That's what I've always had to do too. Deadlifting is one of my favorite lifts, and I would have to do like a rack pull. And then even when I was training for like strongest women in the world, I was like, okay, unfortunately, I know my body. I can only pull from the ground. I ended up doing it only every like 6 weeks. I would program it like that because I was like, okay, it has to be about 90%.
Hmm.
And I hate to even admit this, but it was because I had control of my own training. And I would never, ever recommend someone else do this. And I would never program someone else like this, but I would look at my cycle and I
mm,
would know, because I tend to just get a lot of inflammation in my back, especially when I'm holding that much water. No matter
yeah.
how much my core is braced or anything like that, I will hurt my back. So I purposely would avoid like a heavy deadlift if I could in training,
Hmm.
right before my period, which I hate to admit because my mom once told me when I complained about my period when I was younger, she goes, well, Olympic athletes perform when they have their period, don't be a little bitch. So, but I had to do that for a little while in training. And
Yeah.
now same, I tried to go back to deadlifting a little while ago and I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to stick with the rack pulls or RDL. So I
Yeah.
hear you.
It's tough. It is, especially when you see other people like pain free doing it. And you're like, shit. But yeah, gotta,
Okay.
I want to stay in this sport for a while. So gotta
Yeah.
be productive.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Longevity is
Hmm.
key. You don't
It is.
some things you don't think about that when you're like 20s and you kind of feel invincible. Like
Exactly.
you can miss meals, you cannot sleep, and you can still hit PRs. That doesn't happen once you've been, once you're a little older. All
Yeah.
right, something else I want to touch on too. I know
Yeah.
we're kind of getting a little bit over is you're such a passionate coach. Like I said, I always thank you for it.
Yeah.
And I know you just did a whole episode on why you aren't in chiropractic care.
Hmm.
So if you could just briefly give us a little summary on that and then talk about some of your favorite parts of coaching.
Yeah, definitely. So I did. I went to school for chiropractic, got my doctorate. I worked in the clinic just for a year, and I figured it just wasn't for me. I knew back in 2020 it wasn't when we went to
Mm.
virtual learning, because chiropractic is very hands on. So that was really weird to do virtually, and I
Mm-hmm.
found like my passion started to go down because I wasn't able to connect with people. Um, and when I got into the clinic setting, the same thing. Because especially in higher paced chiropractic clinics, you're cycling through people so quickly. And like you may only get like 2 to 5 minutes tops with your patients. Now there's some chiropractors who do more comprehensive work with them. But that's just, I was in a PI clinic, a personal injury clinic. So people were there due to their insurance. They didn't want to be there. They didn't give a flying fuck about their health or getting better. They were just trying to hit their quota kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, and I just noticed like there was a disconnect with even when I was in the student clinic, during my graduate degree, like people weren't getting better. And it was because I didn't know how they were outside of the clinic, like their nutrition habits, their lifestyle habits. their nervous system load, their mental health. Like it all really does go together. And that's why with coaching, I focus on like a very functional, comprehensive coaching practice. It's not just macros and training. Um, I am very big on the nervous system and how our hormones impact our muscle retention, our performance, our sleep, and all of that stuff. Like, and I do find that that is oftentimes why people don't get the results that they want is because they're not addressing the root cause of why they're in the position that they are today. So that's what ultimately drew me away from chiropractic was just it didn't feel very personalized for that person and it wasn't addressing what was actually wrong. It wasn't just the, disc strain or anything or the disc herniation. It was something deeper, like their diet was inflammatory, their nervous system was overloaded. Their hormones were all out of whack. They drank alcohol every single weekend. Like we weren't addressing those things. We were just adjusting them and then they would be
Mm.
like, "Oh, my back pain's still there." It's like, "Well, no shit." Like, so I just didn't feel connected to my patients. And that's why, I mean, at the time I was coaching still. So then I was like, nope, I'm going to do coaching full time. There were other reasons for that, like the crappy relationship I was in. I was, constantly overseas and stuff. So I couldn't really hold down a chiropractic job anyway. Um, so that was another reason. But it was mainly because like people weren't getting better and I knew that I could help them at a deeper level.
Did you, how, okay, so I think it's really awesome too that you were able to be like, okay, there's a reason these people aren't getting better. It's not,
Yeah.
there's more to this. Like, what got you into like that functional side? Was it just some stuff you should start researching more, or was there, you know, what got- what got you kind of more interested in learning those things? Because you know a lot about hormones and
Yeah.
obviously nutrition and the or the nervous system and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. So I work for Scooby Health. I'm one
Mhm.
of the longest standing coaches under Jason Theobald, because he brought me back on literally a year into my bodybuilding journey. He just saw how passionate I was about learning like the whys. Like I wasn't that regular client who was just like, okay, like I wanted to know like, okay, why are we doing this? I was
Mhm.
probably really annoying to him, but he was like, okay, let me just like mentor her and she'll be a coach for me. So that's how that went. And over the years, like he also kind of shifted more into the functional
Mhm.
nutrition space because I think as a total, like the coaching world realized that it was deeper than just the macros and the training. There were so many different imbalances due to just how people live nowadays and like,
Hmm.
being on birth control since you were 12 years old. The diet nowadays with like what is available, what's readily available for people. Um, and yeah, I noticed that there was just so much more to it. It went down to like their daily decisions, their habits, their process, their environment really dictated their results
Hmm.
more than just if they were adherent to the meal plan, you know? Because I work with people, like they are 100% on it, but still not, getting the results that they want. And we're like, okay, so why? And I was never the type of coach that was like, oh, you're just not trying hard enough, so try
Mhm.
harder. It's like, no, pause, there's something deeper. And that's what really got me into learning more about hormones and lab work. Like I didn't learn that stuff in under or in my graduate practice. Like we had maybe an hour long of nutrition for one semester. Like it was nothing. And like labs that we learned about were diagnosing like very serious health conditions. It wasn't looking at like reactive hypoglycemia and like PCOS and hypothyroidism and autoimmune conditions. Like we didn't really look over that stuff. Um, but yeah, I do think that that is a big disconnect is that education about the functional kind of piece.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing all that. What would you say is like the most common problem with women for not like not someone like me or Christy, just like your regular everyday person?
Um, I would say that they don't have enough muscle. I'm not saying that they have to be my size at all,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that a lot of women train as hard as they need to in order to actually have solid muscle. I don't think that they eat enough. They're so worried about being a certain pound on the scale that they let that kind of override what they should be doing. But I do see that all the time is that they're under training, they're under fueled, um, and they're overstressed. I think a lot of females are just
Mm-hmm.
overstressed. They take on too much mentally, and I think that really does stand in their way too.
Definitely. And I'm sure we can all relate to that as business owners and kind of type A people. So we have to take our own advice as
Definitely.
well. So there is so much more we get into, but Christy, what else do you want to ask Meg?
Um, well, what are you most looking forward to coming up?
Probably getting back to the Olympia and doing better. I do think that I can get in the top five this year and
Mm-hmm.
just feeling more secure in my transition to women's physique. And now it actually feels like I'm at peace and like I'm in the division that I belong to be in. Um, like last year, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, being my first year back on stage and in a brand new division. I was like, do I even belong in this division yet? And now it kind of solidified, like, yeah, bitch, you do.
Yeah,
Like,
you do.
this is it. So I'm just excited to feel more like myself this year and not put pressure on myself during this prep and still enjoy life a little bit more too. Because I think my first prep back last year, it's like I was very rigid, very like very stressed a lot of times. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I actually enjoy it a little more this time.
Is Will more like relaxed than you when it comes to that? Okay.
Yeah.
No, it
He was
always
not
that makes the best
bothered by
relationship.
it. Yeah, he's so chill, but like he even said like, yeah, those last couple months of prep were hell. Like because of just how like on edge I was. And like I of course there is that point where you do have to kind of lock in and you do get a little overwhelmed and you have to be very, very rigid, but you can still enjoy life. Like we went on hikes, we went to waterfalls and stuff like 3, 4 weeks out. And it's like I just want to be able to be present more for those experiences too, while still showing that I can be a top five Olympian.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Good. No, I'm glad you're talking about that because you can. There's like this misconception with bodybuilding that you have to, and you
yeah, of course.
99.9% of the time you can't miss your meals, you can't miss training, but
Yeah.
there's a way to go through it and not be an asshole. And I've learned that too because
Mhm.
I was almost afraid to pursue bodybuilding because I was like, I don't want it to be like strongman for me. I don't want to leave my brother's wedding early. I don't want to be, you know, not like doing a toast. Like I always kind of
Mhm.
like would feel guilty, but I've
Mhm.
learned that too. And I still struggle with it. Like when I'm in deep in prep, I can see kind of some of those like old obsessive habits coming back. And I journal and I try to just make sure I'm coping correctly. So I love that you said that. Okay, so what are some fun things that you want to try to still include on prep? For I know you said hiking, and how are you going to work that into it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we kept up with our hiking up until probably like 6, 7 weeks out. There
Mm-hmm.
is a certain point where I cannot like go on like extensive hikes for sure. But honestly, like it's easy cardio in prep. Like I'd rather go on like a pretty intense hike with the dogs and my husband than get on the elliptical for 45 minutes to an hour. So I definitely want to hike more. I want to explore more of where we live. Because of course, like in the off season, like I got to try like all the fun food around
Yeah.
here, but there's more to like the Carolinas and stuff than just food. And I think a lot of people in bodybuilding, like in prep, they make it all about food. They're like, oh, well, we can't go on dates because we can't go out to eat. But it's like, we could try like a pottery
Right.
class or go bowling or like, like do other things. So I do want to just go on more non food dates and show that it is possible to do that in prep. But yeah, I'd love to travel more too this year. Um, Last year, I mean, we traveled for shows and we moved. That was pretty
Mm-hmm.
much it. But prior to Will, like I was like traveling everywhere and like all
Yeah.
this stuff. So I do want to kind of get back into that. Hopefully, um, going to different places. Like I'm going to like a seminar in Charlotte, like in March, and like just being more immersed in the bodybuilding community too. Like going to shows, even though I don't have like an athlete there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be cool. Going to more pro shows like that are close to me. I'm not gonna like fly out to like watch like Arizona Pro or something if I'm not gonna compete in it. But just being more in the sport.
Good. Well, you're always welcome. If you have posing with Christina, you're always welcome
I
to stay
know.
here. I have a bed back there. This is my podcast room, but it's also the guest room. So
I love it.
always welcome here.
Yes.
And okay, Christy, do you have any fun questions for Meg?
Fun questions. Okay, well, okay, so I know that Meg has like a lot of dogs and just adopted another dog. Um, but would you get another dog?
No. No. No.
There's not one type of dog you're missing right now.
Actually, yeah, a wiener dog. Like I
That's
really
what
want
I
Yes,
want. That's
yeah.
what I want. But wiener dogs come in pairs. You can't just get
I'm
one.
gonna also say wiener dogs are basically chihuahuas that are long.
right?
So
Like
like you need to like chihuahuas.
I think, yeah, definitely a little dog. I'm more of a little dog person.
Hmm.
We just adopted a German Shepherd, so he isn't little. And we have Rolo, who's the chocolate lab. So
Hmm.
then the two little dudes, they're pretty small.
They're
Um,
so freaking cute.
but I would love a wiener dog.
A wiener dog would
I'd give
fit
them
your
like
guys
That's
perfectly.
thing.
That's what, yeah. Anthony was always like, he's like, can we do anything but a wiener dog, please? And he told me last year, he goes, or this, I can't remember exactly when he said it, but he was like, do you want a wedding or do you want like 5 wiener dogs? And I was like, 5 wiener dogs,
Hmm.
man. But
Yeah, I would choose the wiener dogs. They're just so funny looking. Like it's
They're
just
so
cute.
cute.
no, I'm obsessed with them. Like Missy Truscott has them. And
She
yeah,
has so many. They're so cute.
I know she has so many. So, okay,
Adorable.
what is one thing, if anyone takes anything from this podcast, what is one piece of advice that you want to leave them with?
To just, God, this sounds so like Miss America, but just like to follow your dreams, like just your dreams only. Don't let social media influence it. Just be grounded and be all accepting of who you are at the core. And don't try to fit into societal norms because that's tiring and
Mm-hmm.
it's not who you are at the end of the day, usually. So, yeah, just be
I love
you.
it. Love it. Okay, and give us one EDM song that someone should go listen to when they lift next.
Oh, shit. Well, I definitely, okay. That's gonna be tough because I have like 1,000. Um, if you want to do like a fun cardio session, definitely listen to like Mary Drop-ins, for sure. My heavy lifting though is all rhythm, which I know not a lot of people are into rhythm. But there's Roy, ROI. He's out of France. He has like this his last like
Yeah,
live set at Northern. Oh my god. It's on SoundCloud. If you like rhythm, you'll get down to that. It's like an hour long set, so check it out for sure.
will do. And then where can everyone find you for coaching, just to learn more about you?
Yeah, Instagram is the easiest way. Dr.meg_Scooby Health. I do have like the link in my bio for coaching. You can always DM me too. I'll respond. And yeah, that's really it. I don't have TikTok. I don't do YouTube. So if you want to connect, it's definitely Instagram.
I'll put the links for Instagram and coaching right under. But yes, thank you so much, Meg. I'm so
Thank
happy we got.
you.
I think it's really cool we got to talk to you on literally like day one of the countdown.
Hmm.
I know, I love it. I'm gonna be skinny here soon.
Uh-oh, skinny
Awesome.
talk.
Yeah,
I
we don't
know.
want to.
Skinny talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meg.
Of course. Bye.